Hello, hello. Let's see, is this mobile? I can do this. Yes? All right, looks good. All right, well, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Oh, no, I gotta stay in one place? All right, thank you so much. Maybe I can just shift side to side. I'm the kind of person who likes to be active and engaging when I'm giving my talks, so maybe I can actually turn it over to you guys. So for the folks that are here, if you're a scientist first, primarily, could you raise your hand for me? A couple, all right. What about if you're an AI engineer first and foremost? You work on the AI side of things, okay? And then what if you are a crypto person first and foremost? All right, so we have an interesting blend here. Okay, great. Well, as part of Bio, we are blending all three of these elements, right? Incredible breakthrough science, using AI to support these breakthrough scientific discoveries, and then crypto token economics to accelerate these breakthroughs into commercial potential and actually deliver real-world impact. Obviously, as you all know, we've railed on this point many, many times, but the time to accelerate science is now, and we've seen an incredible opening, especially with the transition in this new administration, where the NSF and the NIH in the US have completely been gutted. A ton of capital has been cut from there. And so rather than waiting and expecting for someone to come save us as scientists, someone to help accelerate our science, it's our responsibility as scientists to save ourselves. Bio has already gone ahead and pioneered this approach. We've incubated a ton of Bio DAOs. You should recognize a ton of the logos here. And we're even in the process of standing up a bunch more of these Bio DAOs. In fact, Bio is the best place for anyone that wants to start a Bio DAO, or as I like to explain it to scientists, they're on-chain research collectives. If you go to app.bio.xyz, on our Launchpad page, you can actually see a bunch of Bio DAOs right now that are in the process of getting what we call curated, and that are pre-launch, that we're kind of teasing are going to come up soon. That's just the tip of the iceberg. We've got many, many, many more scientists and Bio DAOs that we're working with. And today, I want to share with you guys a sneak peek of how we are using AI to make starting a DAO absolutely easier than ever. This internal AI DAO building tool we call the Portal. The Portal is basically an AI companion or guide that helps to bring any scientist, regardless of where they are in their scientific journey, to building a scientific research collective, and it guides them every single step of the way for what they have to do next. For the purpose of this talk, this breakdown, I've kind of explained a science research collective into three key parts. So the first is actually having scientific assets and progress that are posted on chain. That's the infrastructure that Molecule is building and Kevin talked about with the POIs. Next is actually using AI to help fill the gaps inside of papers and build out decentralized knowledge graphs, basically the home of each individual DAO or research collective. And then finally, I think the most important that often gets overlooked by newcomers, new scientists, is actually building a community spirit and movement as part of your research collective. Okay, I'm going to start with the science on-chain piece first. So as Kevin gave a great presentation earlier about POIs, or proof of invention, these POIs, as you know, can be as simple as you have an early stage idea, or you actually have data that's been collected from the lab, and you want to timestamp, you want to prove on-chain that you were the originator of this data. That's one example of a way a POI can be used, and that's sort of the follow-on, or I should say that's the seeds that eventually get turned into an IP NFT that can eventually be patented, monetized, sold, built through a joint development agreement, et cetera. But the dream here, the vision for the Portal, is that it'll pull out even more nuanced scientific progress and help post it on-chain for you. So rather than having scientists need to go ahead and push buttons and learn how to send transactions to put relevant data on-chain, this agent that's going to sit inside of your Discord or wherever else your DAO is based will actually start to screen for the progress that's happening. So for example, you just finished running a lab run on mice. That data, it'll clean up for you and say, hey, we think this is an important snapshot, an important piece of progress in your scientific area. Would you like to post this as a POI? Would you like to put this on-chain? And this serves two really key benefits. One is it allows the scientific process to happen in the open. I think academia has been very plagued with the idea of it's first to publish, and we want to make sure that we have a banger paper with a ton of citations. But that's counterproductive to what we think is the true heart of science, which is actually having your scientific procedures, processes available out in the open for people to check, to diligence, to give feedback on, and to move forward. And because you're the one who put that data on-chain first, you still get the recognition of being the originator of that information. Rather than being the first to publish a scientific paper, you're the first to demonstrate this data on-chain. That's one. And then the second piece is it allows the community to objectively see that this research collective is making progress. I think one of the big challenges that we've seen is communication of what research collectives are doing to get transferred outside of that Discord. If you're not a daily active user inside of that research collective, you might not know that things are happening, progress is being made. And so by streaming actively an agent pulling these data points out and putting them on chain, communicating them for you, the world gets to see that progress is happening, and progress and momentum beget more of that. And we think this will create a positive flywheel effect for DAOs and research collectives, attracting more and more scientists that want to contribute to these collectives. Okay, so that's research on chain. The second piece is scientific databases. So we've heard quite a number of times about decentralized knowledge graphs today, and this is the core scientific heartbeat of every single research project. Imagine a future where a scientist finds out about a DAO, call it VitaDAO. They're really interested in longevity. The moment they join VitaDAO through Discord, they get access to see what the collectivized papers that have been pulled together by all the cumulative researchers in VitaDAO are, and it creates basically a tech tree of understanding for where the cutting edge is. And then using AI, we can also fill in the gaps of understanding of what papers either may not have been contributed or opportunities for further investigation of research in that knowledge graph. Furthermore, and I think this is actually even more important, coming back to a question you mentioned earlier about Nobel Prize winning and attribution, using Origin Trail and an agent that can actually sit in and see who's posting which hypotheses, which ideas, which papers on Discord, we can attribute whose origination or where the origination came from for a novel insight that ended up getting put into an experiment, who collected the data from that experiment, who realized that there was a novel insight in here, and whoever ended up being the PI that published that claim. Every single person in that stack should get attribution and recognition for when inevitably a paper gets published or a Nobel Prize is awarded. You can see the provenance going back in time from where the original hypothesis was generated all the way through the data collection, so on and so forth. And that's the vision that we have here. And that is a more meritocratic way of making sure when people come in, when scientists want to contribute to a research collective, they get recognized for their efforts. Okay, this infrastructure will be built for new research collectives on day one. And then finally, the last piece, community spirit. As I mentioned, I think community spirit is actually, or community building is one of the biggest places where scientists have a blind spot. And I know that because I was a scientist that had this blind spot myself. It's very left brain versus right brain thinking, right? As a scientist, you think to yourself, well, the data should speak for itself, right? But the reality of it is people really love missions, they really love community, they love momentum, they love being a part of something that's important, and the data does not speak for itself. It's humans that have to advocate for this. And so one of the biggest pieces that we're working on as part of this portal is how to guide people through, how to guide founding teams through the process of communicating and building a movement around the research. So one very simple thing is how to set up a Discord properly to invite people to actually contribute to the conversation. For those of you that are tech first, that seems trivial. But for someone who's lived their entire lives in a wet lab pipetting, they don't know the first thing about Discord. Yeah, I see you laughing over there. That's exactly right. No, literally. Same thing here, like hosting Twitter spaces, town halls, journal clubs, so on and so forth. All of these seem trivial if you've seen this done before, but imagine this from a perspective of someone who's never built a research collective. We're making sure that they understand what the next steps are to make sure they build a community and not let the momentum here fizzle out. And we're envisioning this going all the way from the day one of setting up the Discord from the beginning, all the way through scientific road mapping and actually commercial pathfinding. So this guide can tell you, hey, look, we think that your research is really valuable. And you might ask it, okay, who in the public market of US and Europe biotech companies might be interested in this kind of R&D if it turns out the research pans out? Well, because of the state of LLMs right now, we can actually pull up a list of 10 companies who might be interested in actually co-developing or acquiring your IP. If you have that as a target, And by the way, that is something that in the past, only a few months is capable of being done, right, through deep research from OpenAI. In the past, you'd have to find someone who had experience in public biotech M&A deal making in order to collect that kind of research, but we're giving that as a power to research collectives from day one. There's a lot more I can say here, but this is just a bit of a sneak peek for you guys. And the final piece is here, unfortunately my slides are a little cut, but the portal agent is trained on all of our internal documentation. So we have been building BioDAOs now for actually 4 years, which is kind of crazy to think about. And so all of our innate knowledge and tribal information around what it takes to build a good scientific research collective has been put into documentation and trained, so that way you can ask it any kind of a question like, listen, how do I even understand if Web3 is right for me? Instead of trying to go through this entire process from the end and realizing, okay, actually, crypto is not the best way for me to accelerate my research, you can find out from the beginning by talking to our portal, by talking to our guide, and learning about what the right way to integrate Web3 might be, or how you can motivate people to actually contribute to your movement. A lot of DAOs, when they first start out, they're like, oh yes, if I set up the right incentives, people will automatically contribute. But we're all humans. We all know that things don't work the way, in theory, they should. They don't work that way in practice. So this guy can help you answer a question of what should I do to continue to motivate folks to want to contribute. And it can do that with infinite patience and move you closer to success for building your scientific research collective. Now, this is not just a hypothesis. It's not just a theory. V1 is currently being built. If you want to see what the V1 or V0.1 of this project looks like, come talk to me. I'll give you a demo. I'll show you what it looks like to move scientists through or patients through the research collective building process to actually come up with a successful DAO at the end. And I encourage scientists and patients to apply if you want to start one of these on your own. You can go to bio.xyz/apply to learn more. And if you're interested in hacking or working on this at all, just come ahead and come and find me. I'll be walking around afterwards. But you can also email me in case you don't get a hold of me here at the conference for follow-up questions or any ideas you might have. Cool. Thank you so much.
And with that being said, we're actually going to quickly open it up for questions. Does anyone have anything that they want to ask James?
Right behind you, Eric.
Oh.
So thank you. That's very futuristic.
That's the goal, yep.
Yes, exactly. I'm thinking, is there any way or any plan to connect this AI to, for example, lab notebooks or something that is already ongoing? And even that, I think it's a very complicated topic for scientists, to have everything digitalized. So maybe you have something.
Yes, yes. So like you're saying, scientists have their own preferences. And so there's two schools of thought here. One is you force a top-down architecture and say all your information has to be put here. And then the other school of thought is we will meet you wherever you are. So if you happen to use Obsidian or Notion or Google Drive, whatever it is, or maybe Jupyter, we will find you where you are and we'll bring that data in. At this point, we are customer-centric, and so we're going to listen to our customers and see if there are patterns there in where they like to store their data. And we've seen a whole lot of different places that people like to put their information. So taking in customer feedback and then looking at what we can develop, we're essentially going to work into the middle of that. And I have a feeling that we'll have maybe 2 or 3 options that work for folks. That way, there's something for everyone. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't exist in a way that can be discovered or published, then it doesn't really matter to our thesis for open scientific research collectives. And so we're particularly looking to work with scientists and patients who value the open nature and recognize that having this be visible is better for their movement and will actually lead to success rather than the people who are sort of like safeguarding and afraid to kind of get scooped on their idea. This very much reminds me of sort of the Silicon Valley mindset of like, ideas are a dime a dozen, execution is everything. And so we're looking for scientists that have that same kind of a mindset. And so like you're saying, yes, there are some people who are gonna be sensitive about, oh, I don't wanna publish this, I don't wanna publish that. So we'll give them some versioning control, but if they're not comfortable having the majority of their research out in public, eventually, within a matter of weeks or months after the research gets done, then they're not a good fit to start a research collective, in our opinion.
Yeah. And there might be the need to scan a lot of paper lab notebooks.
You mean like manually scan the written ones?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that might be something.
I think tooling is good enough at this point that you can probably take a photo and hit upload, right? That's I hadn't thought about like actually written lab notebooks because when I was in university, yep. And then I know you would have sort of like the original page, the carbon copy, and then like the third, if you wanted a second copy that you can hand out to people, like if that would make it to an SOP or what have you. But that's a good point. So thank you for that one. Yeah, appreciate it.
All right, does anyone else have questions for James?
I know that was a really ambitious thesis, and I covered a lot of ground today. So if you want to talk to me about this one-on-one, I'll also be around. But thank you so much for listening, guys. Appreciate it.